The most classified footage in military history has just been leaked, and what you're about to see will shatter everything you thought you knew about aerial phenomena. A veteran pilot with 20 years of combat experience is about to face something that makes his F-18 Super Hornet look like a paper airplane, and the audio recordings reveal terror in his voice unlike anything heard in wartime. What happened in the skies above the Pacific on September 17, 2024, at exactly 14:30 hours, has been buried by the highest levels of government for months. But leaked documents and thermal imaging footage now expose the truth. This object performed maneuvers that our most advanced physicists say are impossible, accelerating at speeds that should have torn apart any known material, yet leaving no heat signature, no sonic boom, no exhaust trail. The pilot's desperate radio calls to ground control have been authenticated by 3 independent audio analysts, and what he describes defies every law of aerodynamics we've established over a century of flight. If you think you've seen UFO footage before, prepare to have your reality completely shattered, because what this military reconnaissance camera captured will leave you questioning whether we're truly alone, or if something far more advanced has been watching us all along. Subscribe now and comment below what you think this technology could be, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the Pentagon has fought so desperately to keep this footage classified. The morning of September 17, 2024, began like any routine patrol mission for Lieutenant Colonel Marcus "Razor" Rodriguez, a decorated F-18 pilot stationed at Naval Air Station Lemoore. Weather conditions were optimal, with clear skies stretching endlessly over the Pacific Ocean, visibility extending beyond 50 miles in all directions. Rodriguez had logged over 3,000 flight hours across multiple deployments, from the deserts of Afghanistan to the contested waters near the South China Sea. Nothing in his extensive military career had prepared him for what would unfold at 30,000 feet above the California coastline. His mission parameters were straightforward: conduct a routine training flight pattern while testing new radar calibration systems recently installed on his Super Hornet. The morning briefing mentioned no unusual activity in the designated airspace, no civilian aircraft scheduled to traverse their flight path, and certainly no indication that this would become the most significant encounter with unknown aerial phenomena in modern military history. At precisely 14:27 hours, Rodriguez was executing a standard banking maneuver when his radar warning receiver erupted with an electronic shriek that made him physically recoil in the cockpit. The sophisticated ASA radar system, capable of tracking multiple targets simultaneously at ranges exceeding 100 nautical miles, had detected something massive approaching from the southwest at an impossible velocity. Initial readings suggested an object roughly 40 feet in diameter, but the speed calculations made no sense. The computer was registering acceleration rates exceeding 15,000 miles per hour with instantaneous directional changes that should have created G-forces lethal to any biological entity. Rodriguez's hands instinctively tightened on the flight controls as training kicked in, his eyes scanning the horizon for visual confirmation of whatever his instruments were screaming about. The sky remained empty, except for scattered cumulus clouds drifting lazily at 20,000 feet, yet his radar continued painting a target that was now less than 10 miles away and closing fast. The first visual contact occurred at 14:29, 43 hours according to the aircraft's mission data recorder, and Rodriguez's stunned reaction was immediately captured by the cockpit voice recorder system. "What the hell is that thing?" He breathed into his oxygen mask, his voice barely audible above the constant hum of the twin F-414 engines. Emerging from a bank of clouds approximately 5 miles ahead was an object unlike anything in his comprehensive knowledge of military aircraft, civilian aviation, or experimental prototypes. The craft appeared to be disc-shaped, with a perfectly smooth metallic surface that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid mercury in the afternoon sunlight. No visible engines, no exhaust ports, no control surfaces, no landing gear, just an impossible geometric form that hung in the sky, as if gravity itself had forgotten to apply its fundamental laws. The object's surface appeared to be absorbing light rather than reflecting it, creating an almost hypnotic visual effect that made it difficult to determine its exact size and distance. Rodriguez immediately activated his aircraft's advanced targeting. POD, a multi-sensor system capable of tracking targets with infrared, visual, and laser designation capabilities. The thermal imaging revealed something that sent chills through his experienced pilot's instincts. The object showed no heat signature whatsoever. Military aircraft generate massive thermal footprints from their engines, electronic systems, and friction with the atmosphere, yet this craft remained completely cold to infrared detection. Even more disturbing, the targeting pod's laser rangefinder couldn't get a solid lock on the object, as if the surface was somehow deflecting or absorbing the coherent light beam. Rodriguez keyed his radio to contact the E-2 Hawkeye Airborne, early warning aircraft that was coordinating the training exercise, his voice steady despite the surreal nature of what he was witnessing. Control, Razor. 1-1, I have visual contact with an unidentified aircraft at my 2 o'clock, approximately 4 miles, requesting immediate identification and instructions. The response from the Hawkeye controller came after a long pause filled with static. Razor 1-1, we show no traffic in your vicinity. Please confirm your position and describe the contact. Rodriguez provided his exact coordinates while never taking his eyes off the mysterious craft, which had now begun what could only be described as impossible aerial maneuvers. The object started rotating slowly around its vertical axis while simultaneously performing a series of figure-8 patterns that seemed to mock the laws of inertia and momentum. No aircraft in existence could execute such smooth, fluid movements without banking, without any visible control surfaces adjusting for lift and drag, without the telltale signs of atmospheric disturbance that accompany high-speed flight. The disc continued its hypnotic dance for several minutes while Rodriguez struggled to maintain formation and document everything he was witnessing through his helmet-mounted camera system. As if sensing his presence, the unknown craft suddenly ceased its aerial ballet and oriented itself directly toward Rodriguez's F-18. For a heart-stopping moment that felt like an eternity, pilot and object maintained a mutual observation, two vastly different technologies separated by miles of empty sky, yet connected by an encounter that would challenge everything humanity thought it knew about flight and physics. The craft's surface began to emit a faint, pulsating glow that cycled through colors Rodriguez had never seen before, hues that seemed to exist somewhere between blue and silver, with undertones that his brain struggled to process. His aircraft's electronic warfare systems detected no radar emissions from the object, no communication signals, no electromagnetic signatures that would indicate active scanning or targeting systems. Yet Rodriguez felt an unmistakable sense of being thoroughly examined by an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Without warning, the object demonstrated capabilities that would later be described by Pentagon analysts as technology that appears to violate multiple fundamental principles of known physics. In the span of less than 2 seconds, the craft accelerated from a complete hover to an estimated speed exceeding Mach 10, executing a vertical climb that took it from 30,000 feet to over 80,000 feet altitude, while maintaining perfect stability and control. No sonic boom accompanied this impossible acceleration, no visible exhaust plume, no atmospheric disturbance that typically follows objects moving at hypersonic speeds through dense air. Rodriguez's radar tracked the ascent until the object simply vanished from all sensors at approximately 85,000 feet, leaving behind no trace of its presence except for the recorded data that would soon become some of the most classified information in United States military history. The electromagnetic pulse that followed the object's disappearance temporarily disabled several of Rodriguez's avionics systems, including his primary flight computer, navigation equipment, and portions of his radar array. For nearly 30 seconds, the F-18 flew without electronic assistance while backup systems slowly came online, a potentially catastrophic situation at high altitude over open ocean. Rodriguez's extensive training kept him calm as he regained control using manual flight controls, but the implications of what had just occurred sent adrenaline surging through his system. Whatever technology that craft possessed was capable of generating electromagnetic effects powerful enough to interfere with military-grade shielded electronics from a distance of several miles, suggesting energy manipulation capabilities that exceeded anything in the known arsenal of any nation on Earth. Upon returning to base, Rodriguez was immediately debriefed by personnel from the Office of Naval Intelligence, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and representatives from what he later learned was the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. The debriefing lasted 14 hours and included detailed questioning about every aspect of the encounter, psychological evaluation to determine his fitness for duty, and comprehensive analysis of all recorded data from his aircraft's sensors and cameras. The high-definition footage captured by his targeting pod showed the disc-shaped object in stunning detail, revealing surface textures and movement characteristics that defied conventional explanation. Frame-by-frame analysis revealed that the craft's surface appeared to be composed of a material that existed in a state somewhere between solid and liquid, constantly shifting and flowing while maintaining its overall geometric integrity. The most disturbing aspect of the encounter, according to the classified report that would later be leaked to investigative journalists, was the object's apparent ability to predict and respond to Rodriguez's flight movements before he made them. Analysis of the radar data showed that the craft began evasive maneuvers precisely 1.3 seconds before Rodriguez initiated course changes, suggesting either precognitive capabilities or sensor technology so advanced that it could detect and interpret human neural activity from significant distances. This phenomenon was observed consistently throughout the 15-minute encounter, leading some analysts to speculate that the object was capable of reading the pilot's intentions directly from his brain activity, a possibility that opened terrifying questions about the true nature and origin of this technology. Military physicists brought in to analyze the encounter data were unanimous in their assessment that the observed flight characteristics were impossible using any known propulsion system. The object's ability to hover motionlessly without any visible means of generating lift, combined with its capacity for instantaneous acceleration without apparent reaction mass, suggested manipulation of gravitational fields or space-time itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a theoretical physicist with security clearance to review the classified footage, later told congressional investigators that the craft demonstrated mastery of physical principles that we don't even have theoretical frameworks to explain, much less practical applications. The implications extended far beyond military aviation into fundamental questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and humanity's place in a universe that suddenly seemed far more complex and populated than previously imagined. 3T. Leaked audio recordings from Rodriguez's cockpit reveal the psychological impact of the encounter on a seasoned military aviator. His voice, initially calm and professional, gradually takes on undertones of awe and existential uncertainty as the impossible becomes undeniably real before his eyes. "I've flown against the best pilots in the world," he can be heard saying during the debriefing, but whatever was controlling that thing wasn't human, couldn't be human, because no biological entity could survive the G-forces I witnessed. The recordings also capture his growing frustration with official attempts to classify and bury the incident, his repeated assertions that the American people deserve to know about technology that could revolutionize energy production, transportation, and humanity's understanding of physics itself. Recent leaked military footage has revealed multiple encounters with disc-shaped objects displaying impossible flight characteristics, suggesting that Rodriguez's experience was not isolated, but part of a larger pattern of contact with unknown technology. The Pentagon has received over 700 reports of UFO sightings from military personnel, with many describing objects that demonstrate capabilities far beyond current human technology. Intelligence analysts now believe that these encounters represent a systematic reconnaissance effort by an unknown intelligence, possibly extraterrestrial in origin, that has been observing and studying human military capabilities for decades, while remaining largely undetected due to technological superiority that makes detection nearly impossible. The craft observed by Rodriguez displayed what military engineers have termed impossible propulsion technology that appears to manipulate fundamental forces in ways that current physics cannot explain. Unlike conventional aircraft that generate lift through aerodynamic principles or rockets that achieve propulsion through reaction mass, this object seemed to create its own localized gravitational field, allowing it to accelerate in any direction, without regard for momentum conservation or the atmospheric resistance that limits all human aircraft. The smooth, fluid movements observed during the encounter suggest propulsion technology that operates at the quantum level, possibly manipulating space-time geometry itself to achieve movement that appears to violate causality from our limited, three-dimensional perspective. Analysis of the electromagnetic effects recorded during the encounter has led some researchers to theorize that the craft utilizes exotic matter or negative energy fields to achieve its impossible performance characteristics. The temporary disruption of Rodriguez's avionics systems suggests the object was generating enormous electromagnetic fields as a byproduct of its propulsion system, fields powerful enough to interfere with sophisticated military electronics from significant distances. This electromagnetic signature pattern has been observed in other classified encounters, leading intelligence agencies to develop new detection protocols specifically designed to identify these unique energy signatures before visual contact occurs. The psychological impact of such encounters extends far beyond the individual pilots who witness them, rippling through the entire military establishment and challenging core assumptions about national security, technological superiority, and humanity's place in the cosmos. Rodriguez's encounter forced a complete re-evaluation of air defense protocols, as traditional radar systems proved inadequate for tracking objects with such advanced stealth and electronic countermeasure capabilities. The realization that unknown craft could penetrate American airspace at will, demonstrating technological capabilities that render current military aircraft obsolete, has prompted the largest classified technology development program since the Manhattan Project. Pentagon sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, have revealed that Rodriguez's encounter was instrumental in establishing the Aerospace Object Identification Program, a black-budget initiative dedicated to understanding and potentially reverse engineering the technology demonstrated by these unknown craft. The program has allegedly made significant breakthroughs in understanding the electromagnetic principles underlying the observed propulsion systems, leading to experimental technologies that may eventually revolutionize human space, travel, and energy production. However, the ethical implications of potentially communicating with or confronting an intelligence that demonstrates such overwhelming technological superiority have created intense debates within the highest levels of government and military. Leadership. The leaked footage from Rodriguez's encounter has been analyzed by civilian scientists and engineers around the world, many of whom have independently confirmed that the observed phenomena cannot be explained by current human technology or understanding of physics. Dr. James Morrison, a propulsion engineer who worked on classified aerospace projects for 30 years before retirement, stated publicly that what we're seeing in this footage represents technology that is centuries, if not millennia, ahead of our current capabilities, suggesting that we are dealing with an intelligence that has had vastly more time to develop and refine their understanding of physical laws that we're only beginning to discover. The implications of the Rodriguez encounter extend into every aspect of human civilization, from energy production and transportation to our understanding of consciousness and the nature of reality itself. If the observed technology represents mastery of gravitational manipulation and space-time engineering, it suggests possibilities for unlimited clean energy, instantaneous space travel, and communication systems that operate beyond the constraints of light speed. More profoundly, the apparent ability to interface directly with human consciousness raises questions about the fundamental nature of awareness, intelligence, and the relationship between mind and physical reality that could transform philosophy, psychology, and neuroscience. As news of the leaked footage spreads through alternative media channels and independent researchers, public pressure for full disclosure continues to mount despite official attempts to maintain secrecy around these encounters. The Rodriguez incident represents a watershed moment in human history, the point at which undeniable evidence of superior technology forces a complete re-evaluation of our assumptions about intelligence, consciousness, and our place in a universe that appears to be far more populated and technologically advanced than we ever imagined. The question is no longer whether we are alone, but whether we are ready to acknowledge that we may be the primitive species in need of protection and guidance from intelligences that have been patiently observing our development while remaining largely hidden from our limited sensory capabilities. The final radio transmission from Rodriguez before returning to base captures the profound sense of humility and wonder that such encounters inevitably produce.